Hey, what's going on, everyone? Axel here. Today we're going to talk about the Xbox One Scorpio, which was revealed today. The specs were shown to us through a presentation by Digital Foundry, and I'll link the video to that below in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. But essentially what it did was it told us all about the hardware. We didn't get an announcement as far as like release date or the name or the price, anything like that. This was pure specs telling us what the console is capable of, what it can do, how it compares to other consoles out right now. So what I want to do in this video is talk about what do I think about the console, what do I think about the specs, how do I think this is going to impact the gaming industry, what if I think it will sell well, what effect this will have on Sony, a lot of stuff like that. So let's get started with the specs first. It was announced that the specs are quite impressive. It's a beast of a console. It is going to be able to play native 4K games apparently, and it's a huge upgrade over the Xbox One, the original, and it's also a solid upgrade over the specs of the PS4 Pro apparently. It's solidly stronger than the PS4 Pro apparently. It has, I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty technical specs that frankly I don't completely understand all of it, because while I follow tech, I'm not a super whiz when it comes to that stuff, and I don't think like 95% of other people are too. But again, it's going to be able to play clear 4K games apparently. In the presentation, Xbox was showing off, well, actually it was Digital Foundry, they were showing off Forza, which was playing in true 4K, 60 frames per second, and they claimed that it was only using about 60% of the CPU power of the Xbox One, implying that it can play games right now in 60 frames per second 4K and still have a lot of room to spare for improvements. And so that goes to show you it's going to be a very powerful console. So what do I think about this? Do I think that the Xbox Scorpio is going to take over in terms of the PS4? I actually think that it's going to do really well. I think this is a strong threat to the Sony PlayStation brand for sure, because when you look at Sony, the argument for PS4 over Xbox One ever since they launched, well, besides the crappy Kinect launch and all that, really the argument the past few years to get a PS4 is that, well, the PS4 and the Xbox One have pretty much the same games on them, and the PS4 is a little bit stronger in terms of power, so why not just go with the PS4? And that's one of the biggest and strongest marketing arguments that Sony has had to convince customers to buy the PS4 over the Xbox One. But now that's all going to be flipped. Now the Xbox brand is going to have the graphical edge over the PS4, and the PS4 Sony kind of shot itself in the foot by rushing out the PS4 Pro, because they have allowed Xbox to basically leapfrog them in terms of specs. And Sony can't, I don't think Sony right now can go back and just release another incremental upgrade in a couple years, because they just released the PS4. They got to show that system support. So Sony's kind of in a conundrum right now. And let's get down to the financial part of this. Sony as a company is not doing very well. Now the PS4 is doing wonderful, but the other aspects of the company, of Sony and Sony overall, is not doing very well. So unlike Microsoft, who is doing well. So what I mean by that is, essentially what that means is, Microsoft can afford to be very aggressive in marketing the Scorpio and selling it, and there's not really a lot Sony can do to combat it. Xbox can sell this thing at a big loss and be really aggressive and kind of have the opportunity here to kind of bury Sony, because not only is Xbox going to be able to offer superior specs that apparently are a lot stronger than the PS4 Pro, it's also going to offer arguably more utility with backwards compatibility. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Xbox One Scorpio starts to do really well. I would not be surprised to see Sony combat this, not in terms of releasing another incremental upgrade, but I think they're going to try to do what Xbox essentially has done the past few years to try to catch up to the PS4. I think Sony will start to offer more utility in the PS4. Maybe we'll start to see PS1, PS2 emulation. I don't know about PS3 because it's kind of hard to emulate PS3 based on its architecture, but we might see older Sony consoles get emulated for backwards compatibility on the PS4. Maybe that they can do that as more of a selling point. They can do that to increase the value of PS4 Pro, since they're not going to be able to compete with the Scorpio in terms of the specs. They might try to compete in terms of utility, like Xbox One has done by implementing Xbox 360 backwards compatibility the past few years. So that's something to look forward to. So next point about the specs. Do I think that the specs are actually going to get utilized? Microsoft is sort of backed itself into a corner, kind of, but not really, with the announcement that the Xbox One Scorpio will not have exclusive games. So any game released for the Xbox Scorpio is also going to work on the Xbox One S and the original Xbox One. And so that leads you to believe that the Xbox One Scorpio is going to be held back, because these games that are created for the Scorpio have to also work on much less powerful hardware. So that's a problem, and I don't know how long that will last, because I think initially, and I think it depends on how well the Xbox One Scorpio sells. Initially, the Xbox One Scorpio may not do that. The first few years, they may stick to their promise and release games that work on all three systems. But I'm telling you, if this thing actually sells really well and is really successful, I don't think Xbox is going to stick to the word here. I think that they'll come up with some kind of company PR speak. They'll come up with some reason to make Xbox Scorpio exclusive games and to kind of hang the older consoles out to dry. I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 years, 3 years, if the Scorpio does well, we hear some kind of announcement from Xbox saying that they'll say something very corporate, like, we want to listen to our customers, and our customers are telling us that they want 4K games with this spec and this spec, and they want these visual enhancements, and they want to be able to play games this way. And in order to do that, we need to make it exclusive to the Scorpio. So we are listening to you as a customer. We're going to make these games only for the Scorpio to provide you, the customer, with the best experience possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something like that. And they might also counter it with maybe they'll if they make that kind of announcement, they might say that, hey, we still don't want to hang you guys out to dry who own the original version of the hardware. And because we care so much about you, for the next 6 months, we're going to offer you an additional $25 if you trade in your original Xbox One towards the purchase of a Xbox One Scorpio. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that. Believe me, if the Xbox One, if the Xbox One Scorpio sells really well, I think that definitely will happen. Even though they're saying right now they're not going to do that, I think they will. Because at the end of the day, if a AAA developer comes to them with this huge new game, maybe a new giant Elder Scrolls game or the GTA 6 or something, and they want to utilize that extra power in the Xbox One Scorpio in order to create a great game, I don't think that Microsoft is going to turn that developer away and say, no, you cannot make this game on our system because you're not going to cater to the older consoles. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go where the money is. So the next point I want to talk about, how much do the graphics really matter to people? Because me personally, I'm not a graphics whore by any means. I don't really care. I just bought an Xbox One, as you guys know, and I didn't consider graphics, the extra graphics of the PS4, the PS4 Pro, really as an incentive, or really as a reason in my decision making when I was purchasing them. But I think that the majority of the people who want to buy these things are not like me. I think that people these days do want 4K games. I think 4K is coming into the mainstream. I think that people are going to want these extra specs, these extra graphical capabilities. So I think it is going to matter to people. And I think that even if it doesn't, just the ability of Microsoft to market this thing as being the most powerful console ever made is just such a huge marketing selling point. And I think if there's new people who come into this who maybe haven't bought a console in the past few years, they're going to go with the Xbox One Scorpio over the PS4 Pro just because why not? They have all about the same games and it's more powerful. Okay, now the next thing I want to talk about is the price. And We don't know the price yet. They haven't announced it yet. Some independent sources, as far what I've heard from independent sources, just news media, is that they're looking at a price of around $4.99 for this. That could happen. I think that's the most optimistic you could hope for, because when you look at the specs of this thing, it's really in line with a higher end PC. And it's going to be tough to sell it at $4.99. Microsoft would have to take a big hit. I think we could possibly see this thing at $5.99 at launch. But we'll have to see. $4.99 is possible. I hope it's $4.99. But if I had to bet, if I had to bet, I think we're going to see $5.99. We'll see if I'm right. But man, Microsoft's looking at the specs of this thing. They're going to have to take a pretty solid hit in order to sell this thing for $4.99. So yeah, I think it's gonna be $5.99, but we'll have to wait and see. So the last thing I want to talk about is me personally. Am I interested? Because I just bought an Xbox One, and in my last video I talked a lot about why I bought it. But one thing I didn't mention that I wish I would have mentioned is that I did buy an Xbox One knowing the Scorpio was coming out, so that if I did like the thing and I wanted to upgrade, I would have that option later, and my games would still work. So am I interested? I actually am very interested. I'm more interested than I was in the Nintendo Switch. It's going to offer you really the best experience you can have in a video game on a console, not PCs. I know PCs are more powerful, but I really am interested, and it depends on the price. It depends on if they offer me a good deal in terms of trade-in. But I am interested in upgrading, and I definitely want to see how this turns out. And I'm definitely looking to more presentations, their actual reveal presentation in the future, where they actually reveal the name and the price. So, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Please comment below and let me know what you think about the Xbox One Scorpio. If you're interested in getting one, and if you agree or disagree with anything I've said in this video. And also, I'm below in the description. I posted the link to the video if you want to check out the reveal from Digital Foundry yourself. So yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. Please feel free to like, share this video, follow me on Twitter if you want to get updates on my videos or just anything in general. And please remember to subscribe and like all that stuff to help me support the channel if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more like it in the future. So that's gonna be it for today, guys. You all have a good one. Take care.